Thank you very much, Presiding Officer. I have to confess that I feel slightly sorry for East Lothian Council that not only have they unwittingly garnished the support of the Tory party, which must be a great shock to them, they find themselves at the epicentre of a debate on a policy that doesn't actually exist. As they've made clear, their trust idea has not been fully formed yet. When I first heard it, I have to say it seemed to me it was more a pragmatic response to financial pressures in the way in which leisure trusts have taken place across Scotland. I hope I don't do them a disservice in saying that. I think Elizabeth Smith has made clear what lies behind the Tory enthusiasm for that idea allowing this wider debate in Scotland. It's the old chestnut of creating a marketplace for schools in Scotland. And you won't find a more sceptical individual than I am about that kind of policy, because there is no evidence internationally to say that that kind of policy raises standards. Indeed, the evidence all runs the opposite direction. And if you read the tomes of evidence in the OECD, that will stand as testimony to that. Now, does that mean in the Scottish context that the status quo is right in all respects? Well, emphatically not, in my view. I've already made it clear in this chamber that I believe there are too many local education authorities. I would personally move to a more regional-based structure. And I speak very personally on this. I would hope that in that structure based around a local authority, that local authority could create an education board which may co-opt onto that board other interests, representatives of parents, representatives of higher and further education, of trade unions, of head teachers, of business, for example, allowing more people to participate in supporting the education that we have. I very firmly believe it's necessary to give more head teacher power, more devolution of authority to head teachers. Now, I will not reveal too much, but David, I won't, with respect, I want to develop the arguments. I won't reveal too much, but it would be a mistake to think that ministers always win the battles inside their department or inside the system at any particular point of time. I did move devolution to head teachers a bit further forward. I didn't get anywhere near as far as I would have wanted to get, and I think that was, with the benefit of hindsight, something I very much regret. However, there is never a better time. The time is ever more right to move more to head teachers. The calibre of our modern head teachers is truly outstanding. But remember, that's not always been the case. It's only in the last 7 or 8 years head teachers have had any training or any qualification to do that job. An astonishing fact, nonetheless. There are now better qualified head teachers, better prepared head teachers than at any time. And in my judgment, they not only need greater control over their budget, they need real control over staffing, and to move away from the standardised way in which staffing seems to emerge in our system. If you're a school of a certain size, you tend to get so many physics teachers, so many PE teachers, and so on. Much more discretion needed on that. I used to find a worrying sameness about Scottish secondary schools as I travelled around the system. They're not entirely the same, obviously not, but there's no real expectation in our secondary sector in particular that one school should be particularly different from another school. There's no rules about that, but there are unwritten conventions that clearly bind the system. Now, why is that the case? There's no legal impediment to freedom. In fact, our schools legally are completely free to do different things on curriculum, staffing and the like, but they tend to conform, partly due to the inspection system and the way in which the inspection system is interpreted, not necessarily how it's worked. But also schools like to keep within a comfort zone of each other, never step too far beyond the boundaries. Same with local authorities. I remember North Lanarkshire was one of the very few local authorities in my time who would push the boundaries and break the conventions, and thank goodness they did that. I also found very few schools, but St Modens in Stirling was one of them, which tried to break the conventions and the boundaries and was a highly successful school. Now, it's for those kind of reasons that we created, as an experiment, as a trial, but I think a very promising one, the Schools of Ambition programme, to try and break the barriers, to try and say to schools, you can be different. You can be the school that you want to be if you're given the authority and the autonomy to do so. That programme gave head teachers complete and real new discretion on budgets. It tried to give more colour in the system, more variety, more creativity. And I regret very much that the present government ended that. And I hope Mike Russell will, as part of this process, reconsider that. It was only a first step to try and create greater variety. And all of that is entirely consistent with the modern curriculum for excellence and the desire for more curriculum freedom in our school system. So I think there is plenty of scope for change in some of those regards. Now, I emphasise I'm talking about head teacher devolution, not school devolution, and these are very different things, because I've never detected any thirst from parents to be more involved in governance of their schools. And indeed, the opting out experiment failed because of that significantly. The new parent councils, which are less constrained than the school boards were, with head teachers, with teachers working in partnership, does provide a way forward. Within that context, head teachers having more authority. Now, is there still a role for local authorities in that world? I think there is. And why do I think that? I think there are some obvious things about economies of scale. Why would you want to organise your particular transport system for your school, your particular school meal system? Holding budgets for major maintenance projects, it makes sense to do it at a local authority level. I think there are pay bargaining functions that they require to continue to do. But more than that, there are troubleshooting functions that take place every single day in local authorities to sort out nitty-gritty problems that the public very often don't see. Not every head teacher is brilliant, let me tell you, and things go wrong. And somebody needs to intervene to protect the public interest. Local authorities can do that. I think what they need to develop more is in spotting the next generation of school leaders, nurturing them, allowing us to get the benefit of that, organising induction more effectively than we perhaps currently do, and the probation or support. A range of things they need to do. But does the balance need to shift to head teachers? In my view, yes. Every system needs checks and balances. To me, this is a debate about adjusting the balance, presiding officer. To me, if you want to improve education experience, do not just look at governance. It's not a magic bullet. Look at investing in our teachers. Look at school leadership. Look at self-evaluation, as Mike Russell touched on that the Finns do. Make, in part of that mix, more discretion to head teachers, but there isn't a single quick answer to all our problems in Scottish education. It requires a mix of things, and governance is only a small part of that mix.